My name is Plüer, and I work at Pentagram Design. I've been working there for over 20 years now, and I'm an associate partner working with John Rushworth and mainly John Rushworth. I started working for Justus Oehler in my first year, where I just did Faber and Faber book covers, and then joined John and have been working for him for over 20 years now. My first introduction to graphic design, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I came to the conclusion that I think I was always more arty than graphic-y in my early life. So I was really into illustrations and children's books, and I think even from the time when I was a student in kindergarten, not student, in nursery or kindergarten, I enjoyed drawing a lot, and that must have also sort of come from my interest when, my parents read books to me, that I looked at illustrations very closely, and I was fascinated by the detail in it. So I guess that then moved on to a little bit, I guess, with record sleeves, that I was fascinated by the detail in that. And the interesting thing is that I think I now veer to very minimal record sleeves, whereas when I was younger, I liked the elaborate, very detailed illustration, which now I probably wouldn't even think graphic design. For me, that's mainly the job of an illustrator. But when I think I had this, and then I was in school, I was always in love with art lessons and English. So those two subjects were what made me go to school, and I enjoyed, and we got, I think it was cable TV. I started watching Inspector Gadget and Three's Company, and that helped me outside of school to learn the language. And actually going back to the record sleeves, reading the lyrics and translating every word that I didn't understand. And that kind of then became sort of my journey into moving to England and going to art school here. And I did a foundation course first, which was good for me because I don't think it was quite clear what I wanted to do. I thought it was graphic design, but then when you start exploring all these different subject matters like, pottery or textiles, it was fascinating to me. And I think I gained a lot from just dabbling in all these different subjects. I then, after I decided graphic design, because I did an internship for 6 months at Meta Design in my first year when I was studying graphic design, that really clarified it for me that it was actually going to be graphics where my heart was. And I got a job with Pentagram immediately after I left college, and I've stayed there ever since. And I've been really grateful for all the I always look at Pentagram as a bit of an apprenticeship where they teach you all the rules and regulations about typography and do's and don'ts, and then you can move on to break those rules and make it your own. I now work on projects that are very varied. It's still very much graphic design, but I've always had a love for typography, and the letter form I found fascinating. And so every project I work on seems to be always driven by type and typefaces. So the projects I work on now are things like the new identity for the Crafts Council, which we actually worked on in the early 90s, or John Rushworth did, and this has come back now, and because they're reopening their gallery, and so we had the task of redoing the brand and moving it forward into the future. Unfortunately, obviously everything got put on hold once COVID hit, but hopefully the first exhibition will open in November. And that's also what we were working on right now. I also we do a lot of work with in the hospitality sector, which is obviously also struggling at the moment a bit with COVID, but we're quite lucky, I think, that none of the projects have really ground to a halt. So one of the clients we have is Roccoforte Hotels, which is a British hotel group, but they've got a lot of properties in Italy as well as Germany, and two in Great Britain. I'm also working on with a client in Cambridge. They're called the Technology Partnership. They are engineers and inventors. So that's a very nice project for me because it's a counterbalance to the luxury sector. We do a lot with the hotel groups and restaurants and so forth. So I think from what you notice is that, everybody, it seems to be working on a lot of projects. And I think when you're a student, you're probably only ever really given one project at a time and have a lot of time to explore and work through issues and come to a conclusion of how to present it and what your design is going to look like. And I think when you start work, that's quite a shock to the system, that you suddenly have very tight deadlines, have a lot of clients, and you have to multitask and get your head around that very quickly. So I found that very hard at the beginning to realize I've only got 3 days, and you have to still carry on with all the other projects. Whereas in college, you had all the time in the world to develop ideas. So I think that's one of my advice: learn to set yourself maybe deadlines, and get to grips with responding quickly to problems. The other suggestion, I think, that's how I approach projects, is to do a lot of research and learn from history. Don't just go to what's happening right now on social media and what other companies do right now. Go back and see, how was this solved in 1920s Germany, or how did the Memphis group approach things, or what did medieval typography look like? I think you can learn a lot from that and take just a little snippet from that and apply it to your client's problem. Obviously, always stay true to what the client needs and come to an honest design solution. So what I mean by that is, don't just follow trends and what looks good. I think you need to always bear in mind who the client is, and maybe for example, find a typeface that comes from that city where that client is based. Or if it's a woman who's the client, maybe find a female typographer who's come up with a typeface. All those kind of things help you justify the direction you're proposing, and it'll look much better in a client meeting when you've got an argument for everything that you propose. And I think I'm just trying to think what else I would suggest. It's very hard right now. I mean, I feel for every design student who's got to find their place when everybody's working from home. But I guess you could always, and I do this now as well, join a lot of Zoom lectures and learn from professionals out there and see how they tackled issues, and sometimes even imitating their design to see how they tackled a project, and even redraw it. And you can always learn something from people who've been in the industry for a long time. other than that, always label your layers, and back up your work. And last but not least, start a pension as soon as you get a job. I think it's, you'll be surprised how quickly the years go by and you haven't accumulated any money for your later life. And that's it.